Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of my 3-part breakdown of the 3 styles of workouts we're going to be covering. Endurance, today is strength, and next time is hypertrophy. Sit down, relax, get comfortable. About to hit you with a little bit of science. Let's roll. Strength. That's the focus today. That is something that is very, very critical for us because we obviously want to get stronger. And what is the age-old saying? The stronger you are, the bigger you are. Or vice versa. The bigger you are, the stronger you are, which isn't always true, but in our case, for what we're looking at and what we're focusing on today, it is. Let's go ahead and break it down. When you go to the gym, as we've talked about before, we're going to do hypertrophy twice, endurance once, and strength once. So endurance, hypertrophy for a month, repeat. Now, whenever we're on our strength week, we're going to probably stick to doing all the different workout strength for that entire week. Now, you're going to structure it a little differently because when you're doing your strength day, we want to focus more on the compound exercises, as I mentioned earlier, your squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, pull-ups, yada yada, because when we're trying to do maximum output weight, it helps if we're doing exercises that involve the most muscles to help and support everything. For an example, for a breakdown for your strength week, you might want to do a squat Monday where you'll really just do 30 minutes of squats and then do some heavy lunges or leg press or something to finish off. Then a day off of rest. Rest is very important for strength week because you're doing something that involves the most strain on your muscles. Skip to Wednesday. Let's just say it's a deadlift day. Then we're going to do your deadlifts for 30 minutes. Then finish off with maybe some hip thrusts and some hamstring curls. Boom, you're done. And then lastly, maybe bench press. Now, you can do strength with anything, even in the small isolations like bicep curls. You do whatever the heaviest weight is. But you want to make sure you're focusing the most on your compound exercises. That's going to be the exercises that gives you the ability to hit the heaviest weights, and that's the whole premise of this. Now, what is your time frame, reps, sets, yada yada? Again, everything is going to be within that hour. So 45 to 55 minutes is that sweet spot of how long you want to be there. As I said at endurance, we're going north of 15 reps, anything between 15 to 30 reps per set. Now we're cutting that way, way down. Anything that is your 1MR or your 1 rep max, which is something you're going to always focus on in these weeks, is whatever exercise you're working on, that heaviest weight you can only get once. That's your 1 rep max. Anything else, sometimes you might be able to hit 2, 3, 4, never more than 5 or 6, or else you're obviously not doing heavy enough weight. So anything between the 1 to 4 range is what we're going to stick to per set. Now you're going to still probably stick to 3 working sets depending on what you're doing. If you're dedicating that day to that exercise, it might be 10 sets or more of that one particular exercise. It depends on how many different exercises you're trying to get in at the same time. If it's not a compound exercise focused day and you're just doing multiple power exercises, then I would recommend 5 different exercises and about 15 to 20 working sets. The reason this is so important for us is because this is where that big $1 million question comes from. How much you bench, bro? Well, through these is where you'll be able to increase that and answer that question in confidence. Strength day is where you're going to be able to work up whatever your maximum output weights are for any type of exercise. Something as simple as tricep push down all the way to the squat. Any of those, anything that you're working on hitting new weights and getting weights that you can't do more than about 5 reps, that is where this comes into play. So this is the opposite half of what we're working towards for hypertrophy. Endurance is where we're trying to really get ourselves acclimated with stamina and building up the ability to have prolonged workouts and not run out of energy, in turn to put out the heavy weight and get the power we need to hit our new highest levels of output. Something I mentioned in the endurance video was how this can also be applied for day-to-day life and outside of the gym. How is working out this style useful? There's not as much for it because if you're not doing something or if your job does not involve you having increased amount of strength, then there's not much for it. But if you're a day laborer or you do anything that you involve moving heavy objects or anything like that, obviously being stronger is always a better thing, but it doesn't exactly apply to too many day-to-day activities. Something else tying into endurance that I mentioned that was very important was everything out of these 3 videos. I'm going to mention what is the golden rule that you must remember through these. And through endurance, it was explosiveness. The most important thing for strength days and your week of strength is form. Again, I think you know where this is going. The number one thing I'm going to talk about throughout the whole entire program is anything that's going to help us prevent injuries, because we are at a higher risk with our smaller frame, smaller muscles, smaller joints, smaller tendons, smaller everything. That is at a higher risk for injury. So I want to always preach that, so you can keep that in the back of your mind, so you're making sure you're aware and always applying the safety precautions to prevent injury throughout every workout. Now, the highest risk of injury of anything we do is going to be the strength days, because that's when you're putting the most weight either on your shoulders or over you, or doing something that could most likely pop something. So form is critical. They don't preach it for no reason. If you're doing a squat and you're out of alignment, or you let your foot pronate out, or your knee sway, boom, there you pulled a hamstring or stretched a tendon, or got a ligament messed up. You want to make sure you have good practices with lighter weight and work your way up. You don't want to start always at the top. You want to make sure that you get it. It's the whole body, it's a muscle memory. As you're doing these compound exercises that involve your whole body to work in unison, you want to make sure you get it so that you get it down so you don't even have to think about it. You're just doing everything properly. The mechanics are very important for these compound exercises. So I preach to you that you really stay focused on your form. It's a mental game. You got to think about everything you're working. As you're going down for a squat, you have to think, are my hips going down straight? Are my knees in alignment? Are my ankles tight? Is my back straight? Is everything tight and ready to prevent one muscle from overcompensating and getting messed up? Following that, another really important thing is stretching. I'm going to add another video coming up soon about a whole thing dedicated to stretching. But on your strength days, it's critical, especially stretching your legs and your hips and all that. Stretching is the most important for these, because again, you're putting the most strain on your muscles, so you want them to be stretched out and relaxed and warmed up and ready to go, because again, preventing injury is what we're all here to do. So stretching is important. I would dedicate a good 15 minutes of stretching before you do, especially the compound exercises, because it will really help make sure everything stays in line, which will help prevent the injury. Lastly, touching on the form. Form needs to be strict, but there is also the whole debate about momentum shifting when you're working with really heavy weight. So let's say you're doing a barbell curl and you're starting to do a little bit of a momentum swing to get those last reps. There's a difference between that and basically letting your knees collapse in to really push yourself up on a squat, or arching your back to pull up for a deadlift. There's a difference between giving a little momentum to help you get those last reps versus sacrificing muscles that are supporting you in order to get a weight that you're not ready to get. So for certain exercises, momentum can be okay to really push yourself for those last, that third or fourth or fifth rep or whatever you're trying to get, because that's the ones that really count. I'm also going to put out a video coming up soon about the power of a workout partner and how valuable it is for spotting, because during these is the most critical time to have a spotter, because you have the most weight that you're used to most of the time over you or somewhere that it could land on you or hurt you. So having a spotter and having someone to help keep you safe through those workouts is the most critical through these strength weeks. So have the spotter, and if you don't, feel free for certain exercises to use a little momentum. There's a difference between momentum and totally sacrificing all form and rigidity in your support muscles. Finally, I want to make sure that you guys implement the most amount of rest. If you have ever gone to the gym, if you are someone who has a decent amount of experience watching this video, and you've done a really impressive deadlift day, you hit maybe a PR, or you just did 10 good working sets, worked your way up to your max and worked your way down, did a pyramid set, what have you. There are 2 days where your hamstrings and glutes may be annihilated. This is the time that your muscles are healing, as in they're injured and broken down. So that is when they are incredibly susceptible to serious damage. So you must rest. I recommend that you work a day less during your strength week. 3 days for the week, really, will give you adequate rest. Maybe a good 2 days behind certain workouts, because this is where your muscles are most susceptible and most damaged. So I recommend that you do not underestimate how much rest you will need after some of these workouts that you do. So let's recap. What did we find out today? We're going to stick to the much lower rep range, opposite of endurance. We're still in there about the same amount of time, 45 minutes to 55 minutes. You're having a really high intensity output this time. Last time it was high volume, this time it's high intensity. You're going to go in and hit 1 MRs. You're going to try to hit your new 1 rep maxes for exercises. You're going to stick predominantly to the compounds because that's what's going to get you the most results and get you stronger the fastest. We want to make sure that we are sticking to really good form, but don't be afraid to use momentum for certain exercises to help you get those last important reps out. We're also going to make sure we get adequate amount of rest, and all this to prevent injury. Make sure you keep these workouts short, sweet, and to the point. Just make sure you're getting yourself done efficiently. Don't take long rests. Don't go stare at the TV for 15 minutes in the middle of it. Make sure you're getting adequate breaks between the sets. So this is not anything like a circuit where, oh, it's been 30 seconds. No, if you just did two reps on squat and you barely squeaked that second one out, give yourself a good 2-3 minutes of rest. But just make sure you're keeping yourself dedicated and focused on getting that workout done still in the allotted amount of time, so you're not depleting yourself of calories. Thank you guys so much for watching part 2. Part 3 will be out hopefully in a couple days, which will be the most important of all, hypertrophy. This is mashing them together, and this is what shows the physical aspect of it, which was to me the most important, so I'm sure to a lot of you is about looking bigger and being bigger. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe to the channel so I know I got some people watching me. Tune in next time. Let's conquer.